Hey everybody, how's it going? Stoutman coming back at you once again, and today we're going to get back to the underrated horror movies, my favorite underrated horror movies. I did part 1 last week. This week I'm doing part 2. So let's talk about that, shall we? I'm just going to get the party started by showing you a movie that I just recently showed you, actually. But, you know, maybe I'll talk about it a little bit more. I just recently picked this up in my last pawn shop haul video that I did for $1. So I was very happy to get it at that price, obviously. And quite frankly, it's worth it. It's definitely worth $1. It's definitely worth maybe even $2 or $3. Maybe not like, maybe it's not worth a full price tag kind of thing, but it's a pretty good movie. And it's one that I would enjoy checking out more than once. So I was, I was absolutely ecstatic. I was very happy to have found it, because I've been looking for this one in particular for a while for a decent price, and $1, you can't beat it. So yeah, I almost said Paranormal Activity. Paranormal Entity, which is obviously, it's an asylum movie, and it's obviously a play off of the Paranormal Activity franchise. Paranormal Activity got very popular, and so then they did Paranormal Entity to, to compete with Paranormal Activity. And Paranormal Entity was actually really good. What I like about it is that they don't really necessarily try to completely follow the same exact footsteps that Paranormal Activity went through. They actually kind of veer off into their own story. And the story that they veer into is actually really interesting. It's unique, it's interesting, it's creative. It's not something you really see in every found footage movie. There are a lot of elements to it that are obviously very similar to other found footage movies, but there are also elements about it that are not seen very frequently in other found footage movies. There's a sequence where the ghost or whatever it is like walking on the walls and on the ceiling and everything, and it's not just a couple that's dealing with this, it's an entire family that's discovering that this is happening. It's happening to everyone. Everyone's experiencing this in different ways, and they try to escape it, but they can't escape it, and just all this crazy shit happens that just does not happen in any of the Paranormal Activity movies. It's very, in that aspect, it's very original, and quite frankly, it's the best fucking asylum movie ever made. I mean, I can definitively fucking state that, because most asylum movies are, as we all know, complete and utter garbage, and this is not. It's not garbage. I would say it is at least a 6 out of 10, if not a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 is a fair, it's a fair score to give it. For me, a 6 out of 10 is like better than average. A 5 out of 10 is average. A 4 out of 10 is, I probably am never going to watch this again, but it wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? Just to give you a sense of my ratings and what they mean. So a 6 out of 10 is like, I would probably watch this again at least once every few years. A 7 out of 10 is like, yeah, I'm going to watch this once every 2 years, maybe. And anything better than that, an 8 out of 10, is just like, it's fucking solid gold, man, Paranormal Entity is not that bad of a movie. It's actually quite good. You should definitely check it out if you haven't before. I know it's an asylum movie, and you're thinking, well, I don't want to watch an asylum movie. I know they're all bad. This is the one asylum movie where that isn't the case. Anyways, I shall continue on and show you my favorite teen scream here. We have Final Destination, starring Devon Sawa. Now, I will say this about Final Destination. It sparked, of course, an entire fucking franchise of movies. You had Final Destination 1 here, and then you had Final Destination 2, Final Destination 3, and then there was The Final Destination, which I think was like a new Final Destination movie franchise. And I think they're doing another Final Destination at some point, or trying to revitalize the franchise in some way at some point. The only one I liked was this one. Come right out and say it. The only Final Destination I liked was this one, the very, very first one. And the reason I liked it was because it wasn't all about the fucking gruesome shit that happens. It wasn't all about the jump scares. It wasn't all about the fucking decapitations and all the fucking death scenes and all that. That was like a major focus of the movie, but it was a major focus within the context of a greater story that was happening, and the story held more importance to the movie than the actual fucking, freaky death events that were happening. All right, that's what I loved about Final Destination, was that, the story elements were solid. They had the added benefit of a few plot devices in there that really, made you think twice about what you were hearing and what you were seeing and all that stuff. And that was really fucking cool to me. When it got to Final Destination 2, I felt like the franchise really took a turn for the worst, because it really did become all about the kills. It became more of a gorehound movie franchise than a proper, yes, there's gore in it, but there's a greater story to it that is more important to be understanding here. And yeah, that story kind of sort of existed slightly here and there in the movie, but I kind of liken it to Jeepers Creepers, in that the first Jeepers Creepers was great. The second one had about 15 minutes of footage that was actually related to a story that was good. And very much the same case with Final Destination and Final Destination 2. Final Destination 2, the second one, had 15 minutes of footage that in any way related to the first movie. And quite frankly, the way that they made they pigeonholed it in there to force it to fucking fit the story, I didn't like it. I didn't feel like it really worked that well. I felt like that plot device was weak. It didn't really do justice to the fucking franchise. Didn't really do justice to the concept. I know a lot of people liked it. I did not fucking like it. Final Destination was the only one I liked, and I honestly believe it's a very underrated movie, because nobody really watches this anymore. Nobody, when people talk about Final Destination, they talk about how bad the whole franchise is. They don't talk about how good the first movie was, and it really was fucking good. So yeah, Devon Sawa, I liked this guy back in the day. He also did Idle Hands. Loved Idle Hands. I've done a little bitty about that one. I do have Idle Hands on Blu-ray, and I would talk about that one too, just to say that it's also a little underrated. But I don't know where it is right now. Regardless, Idle Hands, also good. Another Devon Sawa movie I love. I'll just say that to get that out of the way. Next up, we have something that's more of a, well, it says so right here on the cover, a suspenseful thriller. But there are definitely aspects about this movie that are very horrific. They have their basis in horror movies. In particular, there are, the whole concept of this movie reminds me very much of The Vanishing, which is also, I guess, kind of a thriller. But again, there are horror elements to it. Because the whole thing essentially takes place in a fucking casket. And that would be buried. A lot of people don't like this movie because the whole movie takes place in a casket. And they're like, oh, it's just the filmmakers being cheap. They don't want to have to shoot locations or anything like that. And they don't want to have to pay any other actors, so they're just going to have Ryan Reynolds in a box for an hour and a half. And it's like, you just don't get it, do you? You don't. To borrow a line from Austin Powers. You just don't get it, do you? I mean, this is fucking brilliant shit. I said it before, I'll say it again. If not Ebert, if Alfred Hitchcock was still alive today, he would probably love this movie. He would probably do a movie exactly like this, no matter whether you liked it or not, because it's fucking suspenseful. It's thrilling. It does its job very fucking well. And this proved to me that Ryan Reynolds can act. This is the movie that the first movie I saw that Ryan Reynolds really blew me away, and I was like, holy shit, this is fucking fantastic. He's doing a really good job. And you know, when you're given the opportunity to do a movie all on your own, like, you're the main actor, you're the only person anybody's seen for a long time in the movie, like, it gives you the opportunity to fucking to just go all out and do everything you can to really sell the character. And I really like that about this movie, because it really gave Ryan Reynolds a chance to shine. Proved to me that he can do a good job, which is one of the reasons that I'm very excited about the prospects of Deadpool, among other things. It's also one of the reasons that I kind of like other things that Ryan Reynolds has been doing in the past few years. But yeah, Buried, you know, you hear the premise and you think, I don't want to watch somebody in a box for an hour, but the story is really fucking intense. It's really intense. It's really fucking cool. I really enjoyed it. I don't know why anyone wouldn't like it. It's a guy who's basically doomed if he can't get somebody to help him, and he's using his cell phone essentially to try and get people to notify them that he's been essentially buried in a box somewhere, and he needs them to help him, and he doesn't know how to tell them where he is or anything like that. It's just, it gets really suspenseful, really scary, really creepy, really, you know, it's fucked up, man. But I'm pretty sure this is one that I discovered through Netflix. It was on Netflix at some point, and I watched it on there. And then I picked up the Blu-ray because I really liked it. So, yeah. Really good movie that I wish more people would give a chance. I wish more of you would give this movie a chance, because it absolutely deserves a chance. And if you like movies like The Vanishing, especially the part where they have the guy in the box, like, fucking screaming and terrified and all that shit, because that is a truly terrifying moment. This movie is 130 minutes of, not 130 minutes, it is an hour and 30 minutes of that. It's fucking excellent. You definitely need to fucking check this out. Yeah. Anyways, let's move on. You know how I like my found footage? Well, how about some Cloverfield? A lot of people complained about this movie after it came out because they were sitting too close to the theaters when it came out in theaters. They were sitting too close to the screens, and people were actually like vomiting because of how shaky the camera was, because it's a fucking huge screen full of like shaky movements and stuff like that. You need to be further away from the screen. You can't really be up close, or you will get so disoriented that you fucking throw up. That shit can happen. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people didn't like it for that. A lot of people felt like it was a little cheesy, I guess. And I guess, sure, there are some cheesy elements of it. And I'm not going to say it's like the greatest movie in the subgenre of found footage or anything like that. It's good. It's solid. I would say, again, kind of like Paranormal Entity, it's a good 6 or a 7 out of 10. And people shit on it all the time, but it's really not that bad of a movie. I enjoyed Cloverfield. I would love to see another one like it. I believe they were talking about doing a sequel at some point, and I would love to see that. But, yeah, this is basically a found footage movie where an alien is taking over New York City. It's kind of like, I feel like this movie came out, and then they got the idea to do Godzilla, you know what I mean? If you've seen the new Godzilla, you might know what I'm talking about, because it's very much like a Godzilla monster taking over New York, and it's a found footage movie. You're with the people who are experiencing it firsthand, instead of, you know, the way that they do a typical monster movie like that, a typical Godzilla type movie like that, kaiju movie. Instead of the typical way they do that, they do it found footage style, and it's very horrific. It's very scary. There are some moments where you're it's one of those trapped in the dark kind of feels, and it's creepy. So yeah. Anyways, yeah. Cloverfield. I absolutely recommend it. Last but not least, I have talked about this before, so I'm going to keep it short, but 1408. I really love 1408. It's a really great movie. I believe this has the extended director's cut with alternate endings. Yes, it's the extended director's cut with alternate endings. My personal preference actually is for the original theatrical cut. I feel like it just was better, told a better story, and then the alternate endings is just not as good. It's all right, but it's just not as good. It's not as ooh gotcha, you know. This very much feels like it's a horror movie in the same vein as like a M. Night Shyamalan movie, but I really liked it. It's also obviously it's based on a Stephen King short story, so it's got the Stephen King feel to it. The nice thing is that most Stephen King movies really suck or are not really well shot or really well done. We talked about Stephen King like miniseries in the past video, right? So you know where I'm coming from with that. Like Langalier's technically not brilliant, but there are aspects of it that I really enjoy, right? This one I can say for sure is much more technically brilliant than other Stephen King based properties. And maybe some people don't like it that much, but I feel like it's pretty fucking good. It's one of my favorite movies with John Cusack, and as a writer, as I've discussed before in the past, as a writer, I really do relate to the character in this one sometimes. Not in a lot of ways, but in some ways, so that's another reason that I really enjoy this movie. So, yeah. That being said, I've rambled on for quite a bit here. I think I'm going to move, like just seeing the stack here, I'm going to have to bump it up to another video here. So, it's actually going to be 4 parts. 4 parts. We're doing a 4-part series here with underrated horror movies. Why not? Why the hell not? Give me more time to actually talk about the movies and why I feel like they're underrated. So anyways, that being said, that'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Catch you later. Peace.